Before we can begin to understand acceleration, we need to explore the concept through an inclined ramp lab. So let's take some time to understand the procedures and the independent and dependent variables that we'll be exploring. The question or problems that we'll be dealing with here. Can you predict an object's velocity if the velocity is changing over time? So we've dealt with constant velocity where the velocity is always the same. Now we're looking at velocity that increases or decreases over time. Does a car's speed change at a steady rate as it rolls down an incline? Is there something that governs how fast or how much faster an object goes over time? Is there a relationship between velocity and time? That's our main question. Answer the questions with your best answer based on your previous knowledge. Remember, a hypothesis is an educated guess. You're trying to answer it, and we'll see if the relationships that we observe reflect your answer, or if they open up more questions to be explored. The purpose of the lab is to determine the graphical and mathematical relationship between the velocity and the time of a car moving down an inclined plane. An inclined plane being a ramp with an upward or downward gradient. We'll be working with a downward slope or gradient. Here's our setup. We'll have a main track that's elevated slightly on one end. There will be a stopper at one end and a sensor at another. The sensor will track the motion, so the position and the velocity of the cart as it rolls down the track. In the setup portion, please draw this setup. As far as the procedures for our lab, we're going to be deciding on 5 different positions in meters. So this will be our independent variable. We'll be dropping our cart from these 5 different distances, allowing them to roll down the inclined plane. The sensor will be measuring time in seconds. This will be our dependent variable. This is one scenario where we'll actually be graphing them on the opposite axis, however. We'll change the independent by telling the computer program which distances to measure. We'll measure the dependent variable by telling the computer to measure the time at certain distances. New vocabulary. Acceleration is going to be a new variable that we'll be learning and discussing. This is the rate of change of velocity over time. Speeding up and slowing down seem like terms we may not have to go over, but when we talk about acceleration, we don't want to use words like deacceleration versus acceleration. We want to describe acceleration by what it is. An object can speed up, meaning it has a higher final velocity than initial velocity. An object can slow down, which means it has a lower final velocity than initial velocity. Complete the rest of your pre-lab questions and come to class ready to do the lab.